As he takes his last breaths, our protagonist cannot help but look up into the eyes of his killers. A huge crowd is gathered to witness this spectacle as the royal family gives this man a final opportunity to showcase his magic abilities before he is finished off. He is only able to conjure up a tiny bolt of magic that burns out as soon as it touches the coat of his killer. Ripples of laughter are heard among the crowd as the member of the royal family then reminds our protagonist of his position as a commoner and how his abilities would forever be nothing more than the object of ridicule. He conjures up a ball of fire that sets the man ablaze soon as it comes into contact with his frail body. As the flames eat up every inch of his existence, our protagonist cannot help but marvel at the wonder of such powerful magic and wishes that he could have mastered it during his lifetime as well. A cloud of smoke suddenly appears, and when our hero next opens his eyes, he is met by the sight of three huge women who are all wearing maid outfits. His first thought is that he has been abducted by giants, but when he catches sight of his tiny hands, he realizes that reality is even more strange. He flings his minuscule hand to one side, and a strong bolt of energy is released out of it that destroys the roof of the castle, where he is born. Meanwhile, the citizens outside are celebrating the birth of the seventh prince of the royal family, Prince Lloyd. Years pass, and Lloyd is now a young boy, barely 10 years old. His mischievous nature is no different than any other boy who has not yet experienced maturity. Having escaped the clutches of the maids of the castle, he is approached by a few members of royalty who ask him if he would join them for a hunt. However, before they can receive an answer, he has already disappeared downstairs. They discuss how he had always been a rather strange child, having learned to read while he was still a toddler and even rejecting breast milk. Rumor has it that he is the reincarnation of a very strong and famous magician who died years before his birth. Lloyd overhears the conversation and cannot help but smirk. He definitely is a reincarnation, but in his past life he had been a commoner with no talents to speak of, and even though he has told nobody this, his memories are still intact. So now that he has all this knowledge at his disposal, he can finally discover magic to its true extent. Which is why, once he gained freedom from the maids, his first place of refuge is the palace library, which is stacked to the roof with books of every genre. However, he has just begun reading when one of the maids finally catches up with him, but fortunately for Lloyd, she is also his sparring partner. They go outside and begin to spar with wooden swords. The maid, Silpha, is really experienced, and initially their match is extremely one-sided with Silpha, using her superior height and strength to her advantage. However, Lloyd, who just wants to go back inside and read, uses control-type magic, which allows him to mirror every technique that his opponent is using. When this does not have the intended result the boy was hoping for, he then starts levitating and even increases the length of his sword. Well aware that this would be classified as cheating, Lloyd has no qualms as long as he comes out on top. He then switches up his moves to catch Silpha out, but the girl is an experienced fighter and manages to block off his attack and return with a counter that sends the boy hurling away in defeat. Although she is aware that Lloyd was cheating, she actually begins fangirling about how he was able to use two abilities during combat, while the court magicians are only able to use one, despite their superior age. Later that evening, Silpha takes the boy along with her to the palace bathhouse, where all the maids are bathing together. Obviously, this is an embarrassing experience for our protagonist, who still has the mind of a grown man inside of him. However, he manages to incur some benefit from this experience as the maids discuss a secret library hidden underneath the castle that contains books on extremely dangerous magic. Moreover, a demon that almost destroyed the town is also sealed down there to keep everyone safe. Obviously, such an opportunity could never be missed by Lloyd as that night. He sneaks into the library by the help of an invisibility charm. The barrier on the door, which was said to be unbreakable and set up by really powerful mages, is destroyed within a matter of seconds by a mere boy. Lloyd has just entered the room when the demon known as Grimoire makes an appearance. He is clearly binded and begins requesting the boy to set him free and promises to provide him with ancient magic that is now forgotten. His eyes light up at this possibility, and he frees the demon, who immediately launches a powerful energy blast at Lloyd which destroys the entire library. Thinking that he is now free, he begins planning what he would do next. However, when the dust clears, the boy is still standing with not a single scratch on him due to a barrier which he set up just in time. This infuriates Grimoire, who then unleashes his most powerful technique that further deteriorates the room, but to his shock, there is still not a single crack on the boy's barrier. Lloyd decides that it is now his turn for an offensive attack as he unleashes a spell that pretty much destroys the demon, and Grimoire would have been no more, if not for his immortality. After such a humbling experience, the demon agrees to be Lloyd's familiar and transforms to a tiny version of himself, giving himself the nickname of Grim. While reading in the library, Lloyd is interrupted by the entrance of his elder brother, Albert, the second prince of the royal family. He invites his younger brother out for an event with a group of other guests, and the young boy is happy to accept. Their day is spent at the shooting range, where a range of targets are set up across the terrain and Albert conjures up a tiny fireball to take them down. He does so to the applause of the observing nobles and maids who commend his talents. He then calls up young Lloyd to show off his abilities as well. Our protagonist hides Grim in the front of his shirt and takes center stage. He is well aware that all of his brothers are busy fighting for the throne, but he does not wish for any royal title. His only aim is to gain as much knowledge as is humanly possible and discover every form of magic in the world. Now, obviously, he could take down every target in the range with both his eyes blindfolded, but he does not wish to create a huge commotion about his abilities and simply decides to hit the corner of each target, just enough to turn them around. He does so, but the reaction to this accomplishment is much more reserved, particularly from the side of the nobles. However, Grim is clearly amazed at how the boy was able to use the exact same strike on every target. Albert then announces that he and the guests are returning indoors for a talk, so he is free to practice in the range for as long as he wishes. When the company has gone, Lloyd begins celebrating that he now has the complete range to himself, so he can try out any technique he wants. Grim is already anxious, as he is starting to become aware of his master's powers. But when Lloyd reveals that he wishes to try a double incantation spell that Grim used in the underground library, the demon is horrified. Such a charm would require 2 mouths on a single person, and the extent of damage may be too much for such a residential area. However, our hero is not to be swayed as he orders his familiar to enter his hand, where Grim's mouth suddenly pops out, which solves the issue of the 2 mouths for the double incantation. But when the demon tries the incantation for the spell, the pure power radiating from the boy is way too much for him, and Lloyd has to take control of the second mouth as well. Taking a deep breath, he begins reciting the words of the charm, and as Grim watches the magic form, he cannot believe his eyes. A young boy is using 2 schools of magic to perform a demon-level spell and doing so without any apparent difficulty. Lloyd suddenly levitates into the air as a great amount of mana is released around him and launched right into the sky, much to the amaze of the townspeople who are observing this miracle with mouths agape. Back at the castle, the nobles ask Albert why he spends such a large portion of his busy schedule with his young brother, Lloyd. Taking a sip of his tea, the prince explains that the boy's abilities are prodigal and he would prove to be useful to him one day. He even explains how Lloyd had struck each target on purpose, which further proves his skills. A noble suddenly remarks about how it has become dark outside at such an early time of the day. Apparently, Lloyd's spell has torn a hole in the sky, and space is now visible through it, which is why it suddenly appears to be nighttime. Grim is awestruck, while Lloyd immediately realizes what he has done, and rushes to recreate the sky and cover up the hole before someone notices and realizes that he has done it. Fortunately, nobody found out that Lloyd's misplaced spell was the reason for the catastrophe, but news of a hole in the sky was printed in next day's newspaper. Lloyd pays it no heed, and his attention is instead caught by an article about an adventurer who cleared a dungeon and uncovered treasure. The explorer in him rises up, and he decides to set out and uncover dungeons as well. Grim reminds him that his disappearance would send shockwaves around the castle, but the boy already has a solution. He creates a clone of himself and transfers Grim's spirit inside of it, so that he could take his place while he is gone. Obviously, the main issue would be Silpha, who immediately notices even a slight change in her beloved master, but Lloyd is confident that he would be back before then. Although he is now free of the castle, Lloyd is unsure of where to find a dungeon. Fortunately, he meets an adventurer on the way by the name of Tao, a female Kui user, who agrees to team up with him for adventures. One reason for this may be the fact that he changed his appearance to that of Albert, with dark hair, and his good looks immediately attracted the girl. As they begin clearing a nearby dungeon, Tao tries to show off her strength so that Lloyd would fall for her, but the boy is way too busy collecting crystals and other objects he has never seen before. As they stop for a short break, Lloyd asks Tao if she could teach him how to use Ki, which is a breathing style that allows you to use another energy besides mana. The girl is about to mention how it takes people years to even learn the technique when she notices that the boy has actually begun to do it. She is speechless and is now sure that he is destined to be her fiancé. Once they defeat the boss of the dungeon, they approach a treasure chest, but Lloyd pulls Tao away just in time as an axe suddenly slices at them. A demonic creature known as a lich appears as it turns out that their challenge is not yet over. Lloyd asks Tao what type of creature a lich is, but instead of answering, she informs him that it is time for him to leave and kicks him out of the cave, literally. Although she regrets treating him so harshly, she still assumes that he is a first-rank adventurer and would certainly face death against such a high-profile opponent. As she dodges strikes thrown by the lich, she cannot believe that such a low-level dungeon has such a dangerous boss. She has already accepted defeat in her heart, but wishes to keep the creature occupied to give time for Lloyd to escape. Meanwhile, the boy is confused as to why he was suddenly thrown out of the cave, but does not wish to return back in case there was a genuine reason why Tao did not want him around. Although her kick had immense strength and any other human would have several broken bones by now, our protagonist has already formed a barrier around himself, which softens the contact when he eventually comes to a halt. He then tries to contact Grimm for an update on what is going on at the castle, but no reply is received, which worries him even more. Back in the cave, Tao is at her last ounce of strength, and she appears to be clearly battered. Surprisingly, the Lich starts talking and informs the girl that he has devoured many adventurers with a similar technique of keek, like hers, so he has no interest in her ability. However, his interest is piqued by Lloyd, who had sensed his attack near the treasure chest and reacted in seconds, which proves that he has skills that the creature would like to possess. Hearing Lloyd's name suddenly triggers something inside Tao as she realizes that she actually has something to fight for. Getting back to her feet, she unleashes the entire extent of her key technique and launches a series of punches at the Lich, who creates a barrier around himself. However, such is Tao's power that she even manages to break through the barrier, although at the cost of her entire stamina. As she falls to the ground in defeat, the Lich declares his amusement that the limit of the girl's power is equal to his finger-worth strength. He summons a crystal shard to finish off the girl, and Tao would have been done for, if not for the sudden appearance of Lloyd, who creates a barrier around her and himself, thus blocking the attack. Stepping out of his barrier with a smile, our hero announces that he does not have time, so he needs to finish this up quickly. Although he is faced by such a formidable foe, Lloyd decides to go ahead and practice his Q technique during their fight. So while the Leech is flinging crystal shards after shards at him, our boy is peacefully sitting in his personal barrier, taking long deep breaths and trying to unlock the Kwai. The Lich is astounded that his attacks are having no effect on the barricade until Lloyd himself breaks out of it so that he could take deeper breaths out in the open. The demon now tries to attack the boy directly, but he is way too quick and dodges every strike before it makes contact. Lloyd eventually finds the right combination between his mana and ki and launches a strike at the leash, which is way too weak to cause any proper damage. However, after a few more tries, he finally conjures up the perfect strike that cuts through the demon and its barrier, granting him victory at last. Having just seen Lloyd at his best, Tayo is lost for words as she realizes that she is in the presence of a true magician. To their disappointment, when they open the treasure chest, they are met with the sight of an old rusted dagger that would not look out of place at a vendor's stall. However, Lloyd notices traces of mana on its blade and decides to keep it. They then escape the dungeon before it collapses on them. Having cleared this new experience, Lloyd now returns back home where he is met with the sight of an injured Grimm. The poor demon, with grunts and groans, reveals that Silpha had challenged him to a sparring battle and beaten the living daylights out of him, and then even had the audacity to question his combat ability. The boy comforts him while hiding his smile. As the days pass, Lloyd's new source of interest are the mana inscriptions on blades. Through days of research, he learns how to make mana of his own and collects the appropriate materials that are required: silver coins that are collected from his father, oil from Silpha, and a handful of weapons from Albert's soldiers. Once the liquid mana is complete, he begins writing magical inscriptions on various weapons with it, but due to their complexity, most of them break before completion. It takes days, but our protagonist is a determined fellow, and he eventually discovers the perfect combination. Lloyd then returns the upgraded weapons to their owners and requests Albert if he could observe them during combat. The second prince, who has just received a mission for a monster hunt from the king, agrees to take his younger brother along, much to the young boy's delight. Along with Silpha, who always accompanies her beloved prince, Lloyd and Albert set forth for the monster hunt. Most of the journey is spent catching up on some Z's for our protagonist, who wakes up to the sight of the forest ahead of him. He can barely conceal his excitement, since this is one of those rare times when he has been allowed to leave the castle and does not have to hide to set out for an adventure. Albert notices Silpha watching his brother fondly and makes a sly comment about how she might have different feelings for him, but his words are cut short when the maid is about to unsheath her sword. A huge reminder for the second prince that he will have to hold his tongue around her. The group is suddenly ambushed by numerous monsters, which catches them all by surprise, except for Lloyd, who had been practicing a key technique which allowed him to sense any movement in surrounding areas. However, these are minor creatures, and a single strike from Lloyd's enchanted weapons that are wielded by the soldiers is enough to send them all to monster afterlife. A few remain, and seizing an opportunity to get to the royal family, begin charging at the carriage, but are dealt with by an always energetic Tao, who jumps out of the nearby trees. She explains that she had sensed a key user nearby and came upon the group in the hope that she might find her beloved Robert. She stares at Lloyd with suspicion due to his likeness to Robert, which stirs jealousy in the heart of Silpha, who begins questioning Tayo's purpose in the forest. Acting as the peacemaker, Albert invites the girl to join them until that night when they would set up camp. Dusk soon falls, and the group takes a rest for the night. Lloyd realizes his mistake in using the key technique, since there is a possibility that his cover might be blown, but cannot turn it off now since it would arouse even more suspicion. To make matters worse, There is a constant argument between Silpha and Tao as the two jealous women come to loggerheads at the campsite. A few of the perverted soldiers actually gather to watch this fight between the attractive women, but are immediately knocked out by them. Lloyd is informed by both Albert and then Grimm about what a hit he is with the ladies, but the boy does not appear pleased with this information. Clearly, his only aims for this adventure are to derive peace from a foreign area and to gather new knowledge. Teo discloses that her job in this forest is to fix up an old shrine on a nearby hill. Grimm suddenly goes quiet when he catches sight of the shrine and tries to remember where has seen it before. Meanwhile, Albert suggests that Tayo stay with them until sunrise since her detection skills would come in handy, in case the monster tries to ambush them while they are sleeping. Almost as if the mere mention of the creature summoned it, an enormous wolf-like being jumps out of the forest and stares at the campers with rabid eyes and huge drops of saliva running down its mouth. Albert steps forward and summons an immense fireball, which he flings at the monster, immediately incinerating it, leaving behind only its charred remains. The group erupts in applause, but the prince is humble as always and gives credit to Lloyd's enchanted weapon, which has upgraded his magical abilities as well. While they are all celebrating, Grimm informs his master that he recalls where he has seen that shrine before. It is where a powerful demon has been trapped. Suddenly, the remains of the beowulf gets back to its feet and opens its mouth, out of which a horrifying demon makes itself known. Revealing his name to be Pazuzu, he announces that the group has committed a great crime by crossing paths with him, and now their only destination is death. Not only does the charred beowulf regenerate itself, but a number of other monsters suddenly appear and begin attacking the campers. Despite the strength of their weapons, these creatures heal themselves within seconds after every strike, which puts them on the brink of immortality. Silpha orders Lloyd to hide behind a pile of barrels, where the boy receives information from Grimm on what kind of demon Pazuzu is. Apparently, he is using mana transmutation through which he is controlling the creatures and regenerating them whenever they get hit. Our protagonist's eyes light up, and he begs Grimm to teach him mana transmutation right at that moment. The demon is caught by surprise, but agrees to do so. Meanwhile, Silpha is enraged by taunting words said by Pazuzu about her master, and she squares up to the demon. Thinking that she is just a regular mortal and maid, he charges at her, fully intending to bite through her frail body, but Silpha is way too fast and slices apart the creature's feet, leaving it limbless. This results in the other beowulfs regenerating much more slowly, giving her comrades an advantage as well. Having not had enough, the cocky demon then goes as far as to trigger Silpha with more insults directed at Lloyd. The maid shows no emotion in grabbing an enchanted sword from a nearby soldier. She teleports into the beowulf's mouth, right next to Pazuzu, and slices the entire creature in half. While all this is going on, Lloyd is in a world of his own. Having learned how to project mana out of his body, he then gives it color, shape, and even its own distinct scent. Grimm watches this in amazement, since it is supposed to require years of practice, but his master manages to master it in mere minutes. Not only that, but he actually has enough stamina to then ask his familiar for the next step. Talk about an anime filled with op characters, huh? Utterly worn out and defeated, Pazuzu falls to the ground with Silpha standing at his head, telling him to give up. However, the demon still has an evil smile on his face and starts exhaling a purplish smoke out of his mouth that soon spreads across the entire terrain. Albert and the soldiers take one whiff of this smoke and immediately pass out. Slowly getting to his feet, the demon has grown a few feet in a matter of seconds, and it is evident that he has powered up since a pair of wings are sprouting out of his back. His voice filled with rage, he blames Silpha for the breakdown of his master plan, which he spent centuries locked up in the shrine coming up with. He strikes the girl with such a force that she is sent flying across the nearby lake, and it could have been much worse if not for the interference of Tao, who comes to her rival's rescue. Silpha begins to cough blood and is unable to muster up enough energy to even escape as she passes out seconds after. Pazuzu's attention is now on Tao, on whom his miasma smoke has no effect. Apparently, her key breathing technique makes the smoke ineffective and allows her to fight without any weakness. She gets fired up due to the demon's taunts and unleashes a special move known as the Thunderquake Pulse, which drains most of her energy. Unfortunately, it hardly does any damage, and the girl is now at a clear disadvantage, as is seen when Pazuzu sends his minion Wolf Bear to eat her up. The most she is able to manage is holding the creature's mouth open, but eventually her strength gives way, and she is swallowed. Having dealt with 1 out of 2 of his opponents, Pazuzu now focuses on Silpha, who is unconscious. He aims to use his miasma to gain control of her mind and add her to his minion army, which he has done with the beowulfs as well. He had actually killed their parents and replaced their memories in the creatures' minds with his own fantasies, so that they would serve him. The demon suddenly catches sight of Lloyd, who is busy playing in the lake with Grimm by his side. He first throws some insults in Grimm's direction, since he can recognize that he is a demon and is apparently serving a human boy. Then, surprised that his miasma smoke had no effect on the kid, Pazuzu launches a group of his bear wolves towards the duo, but Lloyd has perfected mana transmutation and uses that to his advantage. Just as the creatures are about to attack him, he switches their memories from those of bloodlust and anger to positive thoughts. Their attitude suddenly changes and they actually become quite docile, opting to cuddle with the boy instead of sinking their teeth into him. He even convinces the bear wolf who ate Tao to spit her back out. Pazuzu tries to use his miasma smoke to win over the creatures again, but they have now recognized him as their enemy and begin attacking him as a pack. However, the demon is way powerful and eventually beats them down. Realizing that Lloyd truly is a great sorcerer, he decides to utilize the full extent of his mana, which begins to radiate out of his body. The dark red energy kills any greenery in the area, and the demon is confident that he has sufficiently scared the boy. However, Lloyd is barely stirred and actually asks Grimm what it would take to kill a demon, since they are known to be immortal. The familiar discloses that it has never happened before, so he could not say for certain. With a grin, the boy then begins unleashing his own aura that soon takes over everything around them and actually makes Pazuzu's aura fade out in comparison. The demon can barely believe what is happening and tries to escape. But Lloyd has created a maze, and at every corner is a barrier that tries to imprison Pazuzu. While the demon uses every ounce of his energy to evade capture, Lloyd is now full out giggling and enchanting spell after spell without any incantations, which is nothing short of miraculous. Grimm then fuses into his hand, and together they form a spectral barrier that eventually closes around Pazuzu, leaving the demon at the boy's mercy. Knowing that his life might be coming to an end, he tries to win over Lloyd's favor by promising him any treasure in the world in return for his freedom. However, our protagonist is dead set upon experimenting what it would take to kill a demon. Summoning numerous enchantments, he sets the barrier ablaze with different colored spells that makes the ball look familiar to a fireworks show. Barely 5 minutes have passed since his enchantment, after which he brings it to an end and opens the barrier, which reveals an extremely charred Pazuzu within an inch of his life. He can barely utter a complete sentence before he is reduced to ash, and Grimm inhales his mana for future use. By now, the rest of the group begin to gain consciousness, and Lloyd rushes to them and reveals that the magician Robert suddenly showed up and slayed the demon. Tao is love-struck when she hears this, and rushes into the forest in search of her one true love. On their return to the castle, they are all welcomed back with laurels and a grand celebration. The king himself summons Albert and Lloyd and thanks them for their contribution in making the town a better place. The second prince discloses that Lloyd's enchanted weapons made their battle much easier, and that he should be included in line for the throne since his abilities would make him a worthy future king. The entire throne room is shocked at this declaration, and all eyes are on the boy as the king asks Lloyd if he would like to join the line of successors for the throne. However, with a hand to his chest, our hero politely declines this invitation and then runs back out to play with a friendly bear wolf that followed them home. A true lesson in humility. Having named his pet bear wolf Shiro, Lloyd's new challenge is to train and domesticate it just like an ordinary pet. Although it is 4 times the size of our protagonist, the boy actually manages to teach it to perform simple tricks such as fetch or to move on command. But the boy is not satisfied with just this and wishes to train it to fulfill complex commands as well. While showing off Shiro to Silpha and informing her of his problem, she discloses that she has the perfect person to solve his issue. Coincidentally, Lloyd thinks of the exact same person, and they go to visit his elder sister Elise, the 6th princess of the kingdom. Her tower is really a sight to behold, with all types of animals calling the place home, ranging from various birds, reptiles, and even crocodiles that are living together in harmony. Catching sight of her younger brother, Aliese rushes down the stairs and embraces him with a tight hug, which would have shattered any normal human's ribcage. Silpha's jealous tendencies once again kick in, and she shows her possessive side, trying to convince her master that his sister would probably not have any answers. However, he still wishes to give it a shot and shows off Shiro to Aliese, who immediately begins cuddling the bear wolf, and the creature clearly enjoys it. Our protagonist then asks her if she could show off any of her monsters, to which a higher breed of bear wolf named Liru suddenly shows up. Lloyd is surprised that Liru was actually able to appear without detection by his Q-breathing technique, and that Elise did not even need to call her out. He requests his sister to teach him this technique so that he could communicate with Shiro as well. Aliese smiles and reveals that the only source for such power is love, which catches all the listeners by shock. She demonstrates this by summoning all the animals in the tower over to her, and within seconds they are all gathered around the girl. However, Lloyd recognizes that his sister is subconsciously using mana to connect with each and every animal and communicate with them accordingly. He tries to do so as well, and after a bit of practice, he is able to connect with Shiro, and soon enough, the bear wolf is doing high jumps in the tower that would make any Olympic athlete proud. With yet another technique added to his experience, Lloyd makes his way back to the castle along with Silpha. The maid is excited to spend her afternoon sparring with her young master, but her plans are foiled by the appearance of Prince Albert, who informs his younger brother that he needs to meet someone. This certain individual is the third prince, Diane. Apparently, he got news of Lloyd's success with the enchanted blades, and since he is a blacksmith by profession, he wishes to observe the boy making the spells with his own eyes. Our hero is happy to oblige and demonstrates his skills in the forgery, instantly winning Diane's approval. His elder brother then reveals that he wishes to forge an enchanted blade that is able to enhance the use of magic, even for those that do not have the ability, such as himself. A new creation such as this catches Lloyd's intrigue, and he agrees to help out. Once the shape of the sword has been set out, the boy is supposed to write out an incantation of his choice on the red-hot metal. However, a fire-based spell known as Pyrlan's Insinus is way too strong for the metal, and it breaks apart. Lloyd tries to abbreviate it since that would reduce its severity, but to no avail. Upon further inspection, he finds out his spell is not the problem, but the liquid mana he is using to write out the incantation. Apparently, Diane bought the cheap kind, which lacks the magical qualities for a truly powerful weapon. The boy's only shot is to go dungeon hunting once again and collect a chest, which would add enough magic in the mana for it to be useful again. Surprisingly, Silpha has this exact same idea and accompanies her master to the guild, where they would search up any available dungeons that could be cleared. Lloyd finds out something new here. Apparently, Silpha used to be an adventurer, and a very skilled one at that. Legends of her battles are still told at the guild, and her title's Ilverblader is spoken with fear to that day. Unfortunately, since she has not gone adventuring in a long time, she is required to re-register, which would set her level at a mere rank C. Lloyd is still a low-level adventurer, so he would need to be accompanied by at least a level B for his accomplishment to be accepted by the guild. Fortunately for him, Tao shows up and reveals that she is a level A ranker and would be delighted to join Lloyd on his adventure. Despite Silpha's initial hesitation, she agrees to this arrangement on the condition that she comes along with them. Such an overpowered group was never going to face any issue clearing a mere dungeon, and they are able to retrieve a chest and bring it back to the kingdom. Here, thanks to Diane's help, the enchanted sword is finally made, and a test run at the shooting range proves that it's the real deal. Later that night, Lloyd lays in bed and feels satisfied with such a positive day. However, his key technique continues to bother him about a strange being in the yard of the castle. On closer inspection, it is revealed to be a hooded individual that seems to be observing the boy from afar. In the yard of the castle, the hooded figure looms ominously. As Lloyd steps forward, the figure reveals itself to be a young girl. Startled, she tries to flee, but finds herself trapped within Lloyd's magical barrier. Desperate for answers, our boy tries to talk to her, but she retaliates by unleashing a potent poison. Lloyd swiftly purifies himself, but it doesn't work. The girl explains that her poison is special, immune to normal purification. Lloyd realizes her poison is infused with mana, a rare and powerful force. She introduces herself as Ren, the poison, blighted, cursed to spread toxicity since birth. Blighted people are rare, and they have special powers which they cannot control. Ren then manages to shatter Lloyd's barrier, but admits he'll survive, having only endured a fraction of her deadly venom. She then vanishes into the night, leaving Lloyd in awe of her abilities. Grim appears, worried about him. With a breath of healing magic, Lloyd regains his strength, recovering quickly from the poison's effects. Grim asks why Lloyd didn't chase after Ren, given his resilience. But Lloyd has a plan: to follow her to her lair, hoping she might lead him to the secretive Assassins Guild, known for its extraordinary powers. Little do they know, there are 6 such guilds, each with its own deadly talents. Eager to uncover the Assassin's Guild's secrets, Lloyd begins his mission to track down Ren. Meanwhile, Ren meets with her fellow guild members, discussing their plans amidst growing tension. Disappointment fills the air as Ren recounts her encounter with Lloyd, and one member scolds her for being caught off guard. She reveals troubling news about the mass production of swords, seeing it as a sign of war and an opportunity for their guild. However, dissent brews as another member dismisses her optimism, lamenting the absence of their leader, Jade. Ren remains confident that Jade will return, but their discussion is cut short by Lloyd's sudden appearance. Surprised by Lloyd's resilience to her poison, Ren and her comrades recognize him as the 7th Prince. With their identities compromised, they prepare to eliminate him, but the prince surprises them by deactivating his protective barrier, much to Grim's dismay. Unfazed by the threat, Lloyd sees a chance to learn from his enemies, using his unique trace skill to mimic their techniques. As tensions rise, Babylon, a man with an incredibly flexible body, and Crow, who wields the power of cursed speech, join the battle. Despite the odds, Lloyd uses his enhanced strength to counter their attacks, impressing even himself with his newfound abilities. As the fight intensifies, Lloyd's determination to uncover the secrets of the Assassin's Guild grows stronger with each passing moment. Dodging a flurry of attacks, Lloyd lands a decisive blow on his opponent, only to be trapped by the sudden reveal of Galilea, the spider-like assailant. Caught in Galilea's web, Lloyd frees himself by shedding his outer garments, demonstrating his agility in the face of danger. Despite the dangerous situation, Lloyd can't help but admire the powers of his enemies. His moment of awe is cut short as Talia, a mysterious woman, launches a surprise attack. Confused by Lloyd's carefree demeanor, Talia harms herself, in turn harming Lloyd, revealing her ability to share damage with those in her line of sight. Lloyd remains undeterred, his excitement growing at the prospect of encountering new forms of magic. He swiftly heals himself, pondering the consequences of attacking Talia. Using his trace ability to mimic Sylpha's movements, Lloyd charges into battle, quickly taking down Babylon. Crow tries to fend him off with gusts of wind, but chaos ensues, causing collateral damage among their own ranks. In a daring move, Lloyd presses forward, unfazed by Galilea's attempts to restrain him. Using his enemy's techniques, he pushes on, determined to confront Ren. Sensing the imminent threat, Ren hesitates, torn between loyalty to her comrades and the danger of her uncontrollable poison. Reflecting on their shared struggle to control their powers, Galilea wonders how their lives might have been if they could harness their abilities without turning to crime. Lloyd now understands that no one in this guild can control his power. Suddenly, Galilea charges at Lloyd. However, our boy deftly evades the attack and counterattacks. Ren rushes to help, but Lloyd swiftly reinstates his protective barrier. To everyone's astonishment, our boy reveals a secret. He has engraved a spell onto Galilea's body to help him master his mana. Galilea, overcome with emotion, realizes that his curse has been lifted. With Lloyd's help, the others experience breakthroughs of their own with his enchantment. Crow finally regains the ability to speak coherently, and tears of relief flow freely among them. Ren feels emotional because she can now control her poison, allowing her to wear whatever she wants. As a gesture of camaraderie, Lloyd is welcomed into their fold. Eager to witness their powers in action again, Lloyd is instead drawn into the group's backstory, despite his initial disinterest. However, when Galilea starts telling about their absent leader, Jade, who possesses the power of teleportation, Lloyd's curiosity is piqued. Galilea recalls how Jade, the Phantom Blight, used to be teleported to distant places against his will. People rejected them because they couldn't control their powers. One day, after returning from a far-off location, Jade shared his plan to establish the Assassin's Guild. This guild would handle tasks that the Adventurers Guild couldn't. Jade showed them a coin as their emblem, explaining they would leave it at scenes to signal the Adventurers Guild that they were working to improve the world. After explaining this, Jade was suddenly teleported again. Ignoring everything else, Lloyd is fascinated by Jade's teleportation ability. Then Galilea informs him that it was around this time they heard the troubling news about the Lordost Kingdom preparing for war. Suddenly, a teleportation circle materializes, accompanied by a mysterious letter. A while later, Sylpha arrives with Shiro to rescue Lloyd, but the Assassin's Guild, along with our boy, has already left, leaving a note behind. Sylpha takes the note to Albert. It is from Lloyd and says that he is going with the Assassin's Guild to the Lordost Kingdom. Albert fears that the Lordost clan might have collaborated with the Assassin's Guild to kidnap Lloyd. Despite this, he wants to avoid bloodshed. Sylpha then shows him Lloyd's clothes found at the Assassin's Guild headquarters, which are covered in spider webs. Seeing the sticky white substance among Lloyd's belongings raises suspicions, leading Albert to declare war. While the members of Assassin's Guild, along with Lloyd, are being teleported to someplace. When the Assassin Guild received the mysterious letter bearing their emblem, everyone was thrilled. With trembling hands, Galilea read the message from their leader, Jade. It stated that Jade now rules Lordost and invites them to join him in the kingdom. They became eager to hear from Jade and hoped to see him soon. However, their excitement turned to doubt when Lloyd questioned the letter's authenticity. Lloyd feared it might be a trap since Jade has struggled to control his powers before. They began to wonder if someone is impersonating Jade to deceive them. While Ren trusts Jade, the others were not so sure. Lloyd also wanted to journey to see Jade and experience teleportation magic firsthand. Though Ren was worried about Lloyd's safety, our boy assured her he will protect everyone. His promise comforted Ren, and the others thanked the prince for his kindness. In the present, the guild, along with Lloyd, arrives at a forest. Lloyd has flown them there, but they soon grow tired and need a break. Lloyd decides they should continue on foot after resting for a while. Ren then goes to find food while Babylon shares her past. He reveals that Ren had killed her parents with poison, leaving her to survive alone in the wild. Talia then speaks about how Jade had helped Ren when she was very young. He was determined to teach her how to live, among others, and convinced the guild members to do the same. They worked hard to find ways to control her poison, eventually creating a special robe to contain it, symbolizing Ren's acceptance into the guild. Talia then talks about Jade's strong bond with Ren, likening it to a sibling relationship. Lloyd is excited to meet Jade, who has formed deep connections within the guild. While Ren makes stew, Babylon asks Crow to improve its taste, which upsets Ren, prompting her to poison punch Crow. Talia reminds Ren that Lloyd is royalty, making her anxious about the food. However, Lloyd enjoys it, surprising everyone and lifting their spirits. They all enjoy the meal together, laughing and reminiscing about Jade. They recall when Jade told them that the Adventurer Guild might stop chasing them and remove the bounty, giving them hope for normal lives. But Jade then revealed a secret. He wasn't a poor traveler, but the third son of the Lordos clan, caught in a never-ending war. Jade admitted to manipulating them and using their alliance to end the conflict in his land. Despite this, his friends remained supportive because Jade had given them hope. Instead of asking them to fight his family, Jade sought the freedom to handle things his own way, wanting to protect his guild members and give them a free life. Before embarking on his dangerous journey, Jade asked them to hold on to their dreams and the hope he had given them. Back in the present, Grimm is impressed by Lloyd, and they take second servings of the food. As they continue their journey, Lloyd grows tired and sleeps, so Galilea gently carries him, while Grimm reveals that the prince maintains a protective barrier even while sleeping. As they approach the manor, Ren suggests letting Lloyd rest to keep him safe from any danger ahead. They decide to leave our boy in the peaceful forest, eager to see what happens next and scout the manor. Upon arriving at the Grand Manor, they are greeted by a strange creature who welcomes them as honored guests of the Assassin's Guild and leads them to the celebrations. Grimm wants to go get Lloyd, but Ren asks him to stay with her for a while as she is nervous. During the party, Jade appears, showing off his teleportation skills by changing clothes effortlessly. The guild members become very emotional seeing Jade control his powers. Though they are happy to see him, their joy fades when Jade suddenly demands they bow to him. Helpless under his spell, they watch as the people around them transform into terrifying creatures. Jade then offers them the flesh of the blighted. The guild members are horrified as they realize Jade's true intentions. In a frantic attempt to fight back, Grimm releases a burst of energy, but Jade quickly overpowers him with immense strength and sends him flying away. Grimm lands near Lloyd, who wakes up in the middle of the forest and finds the creature injured. Grimm explains that their friends are in danger. Meanwhile, Ren confronts Jade, trying to understand what is happening. To her shock, Jade's allies reveal their true forms as evil beings from another world. Galilea explains that they are evil spirits who can control human hosts. With determination, Jade reveals how he summoned these creatures from the netherworld using his teleportation powers. The mastermind behind everything is a wicked being named Gaisarm, who has taken control of Jade's body and mind. The demon reveals that he has taken over Jade's flesh. Gaisarm recounts how he tortured Jade daily to break his will. Jade sacrificed his life repeatedly to protect his friends, ensuring Gaisarm couldn't reach them through his mind. However, The evil demon healed Jade's wounds right before his death, forcing him to endure the torment over and over until his mind eventually vanished. Gizarmni then reveals his plan to use Ren's poisoned body for their dark purposes. The other guild members struggle to protect Ren, but can't stop bowing down under Gizarmni's spell. Suddenly, the demon notices a mysterious enchantment mark on Ren that Jade doesn't remember. Seeking answers, Gizarmni probes Ren's mind and demands she explain the mark and betray her friends. Ren bravely resists, biting her tongue despite the pain. Suddenly, a blinding light obliterates the demons, and a protective barrier forms around the guild members. It's Lloyd who steps in and releases a powerful blast of magic towards Jade and his demonic creatures. After the chaos clears, a huge hole is left in the ground, and Ren becomes emotional upon seeing the prince. As Lloyd stands strong against the remaining demons, they tremble in fear of his immense power. He quickly heals Ren and urges everyone else to run away, promising to handle the demons alone. Despite Ren's objections, Galilea swoops in and takes her away, knowing they can't match Gizarm's strength. While the demons believe Lloyd has defeated their leader and thrown him into the pit, Gizarm reappears behind them, reminding them of their mission. Determined to capture the assassins, they chase after them, but Lloyd puts up a strong fight. Even the guild members are shocked by Lloyd's power. Although Lloyd tries to stop the demons with a blast of energy, they dodge his attacks and slip away. Gizarm joins the battle, summoning a dragon to attack Lloyd. Shockingly, it penetrates Lloyd's barrier. Caught off guard by the dragon's speed, Lloyd contemplates his next move. Our boy considers letting the dragon hit him to test his strength, but is unsure if he's strong enough. With Grimm's help, Lloyd understands Gizarmni's power better. He turns his mana into deadly attacks that normal barriers can't stop. Barriers can't block spells, but they can't protect Lloyd from the demon's attacks. As our boy strategizes, Grimm explains the demon's ranks and reveals that Gizarm is a demon lord, incredibly strong and powerful, even above rank number 1. While his minions might be easy to defeat, Gizarmni's control over mana makes him a tough opponent for anyone, even skilled warriors. Despite Grimm's concerns about Lloyd's chances against Gizarm, our boy faces him bravely. When the demon lord asks who Lloyd is, he reveals he's the 7th prince. Gizarm recalls from Jade's memory that he wanted to meet Lloyd. Curious about the prince's connection to Jade, Gizarm sees him as a threat and decides to eliminate him. But Lloyd won't give up, determined to protect the Assassin's Guild from Gizarmni's evil plans. Our boy prepares for the fight. The Demon Lord, seeing the guild members as mere tools, also gets ready to battle Lloyd. Grimm urges the prince to run away, knowing how powerful Gizarmni is. But our boy is determined to stay and defend the guild. Grimm warns Lloyd that the Demon Lord is incredibly resistant to magic, making him almost impossible to hurt. Even Lloyd's best spells won't work against Gizarm. The Demon Lord then attacks with a barrage of weapons, destroying everything around him. Realizing his barrier won't be enough, Lloyd tries to dodge Gizarm's attacks. Moving swiftly, the Demon Lord swoops down toward Lloyd, wielding a deadly drill of weapons aimed to cause serious harm. In a desperate move, Lloyd summons a stone golem to protect himself. As the assassins watch the intense battle, they realize the situation has become dire. Meanwhile, Gizarm's minions spot them and rush to capture them. Sensing the urgency, Babylon tries to open a gate to help his friends escape. On the other hand, Gizarmni taunts Lloyd, noting his apparent admiration for teleportation techniques. The prince, however, reminds the Demon Lord that Jade is the true owner of the teleportation technique. Gizarm reveals his own mastery, claiming humans can't fully control their powers. He believes that those with the Blight are meant to be taken over by demons to unlock their full potential. Gizarm brags about his perfection from taking over Jade's body and warns Lloyd of an upcoming attack. Suddenly, the Demon Lord teleports a barrage of weapons, hitting Lloyd multiple times. Meanwhile, his minions charge forward. Galilea steps in, using his webbing to stop them. Crow tells them to sink, causing the demons to halt. Galilea credits Lloyd for helping them control their powers better. Finally, Babylon opens the gate. but the demons break free, overpowering Galilea's webbing. Talia senses the danger and injures herself to stop the demons. Crow asks why she did it, but Talia, worried about her unstable powers, tells her friends to run to safety to avoid accidentally hurting them. Ren refuses to leave Talia behind even as the demons start to revive. Talia, determined to protect her friends, attacks the demons again, vowing not to let them take her body. Ren begs Talia to come with them, but Galilea, aware of the danger, pushes Ren away along with Crow and closes the gate. Talia asks why. But Galilea decides to stay and help her stop the demons. He knows they might break through the gate to go after their friends. Ready to sacrifice himself, Galilea tells Talia to finish off the demons while he holds them back. Talia prepares to end her own life while Ren watches in anguish, screaming for her friends. Meanwhile, Guy's army is disappointed in Lloyd's fighting skills. As the Demon Lord gets ready to attack the assassins, Lloyd's body disappears, revealing it was a clay dummy. Our boy then attacks Guy's army, but he teleports away. The Demon Lord realizes Lloyd has a plan and anticipates a tough fight. Suddenly, fireballs rain from the sky, hitting the demons before Talia and Galilea can sacrifice themselves. The gate breaks open, revealing Albert and the royal army. Ren is relieved to see him, and Albert leads his soldiers to save Lloyd and the others. Albert stands in the midst of the chaos, realizing things are far more serious than he anticipated. Despite the mayhem, their mission remains unchanged. They have to rescue Lloyd. Ren feels a sense of relief as reinforcements arrive, but Albert and Silpha have one priority: discovering who has taken Lloyd. With demons lurking nearby, their primary objective is clear: deal with Lloyd's captors first. Silpha, her determination unwavering, approaches the Assassin Guild with her sword drawn, demanding to know Lloyd's whereabouts. She warns them of severe consequences if they lie or withhold information. Under pressure, Galilea begins speaking rapidly, revealing that Lloyd is engaged in a fierce battle at the Grand Manor. Surprised, Albert presses for more details about the fight and Lloyd's opponent. Ren prepares to explain the situation, but Babylon intervenes, recalling the prince's plea for secrecy. In the forest, Lloyd had emphasized the importance of keeping his powers and Grimm hidden from anyone connected to his castle. Despite agreeing to keep his secret, they couldn't help but wonder why Lloyd is so adamant about concealing his strength. As Lloyd had almost fallen asleep, he had confided in them that he doesn't want the responsibilities that come with revealing his true power. He simply wishes to focus on his research in sorcery. As Ren now contemplates whether to tell Albert about Lloyd's battle with the Demon Lord, Babylon worries that people from the castle might interfere with Lloyd's plans. They are caught in a dilemma. Should they reveal the truth or keep it a secret? Time is running out, and Silpha grows impatient, her sword ready for action. Ren quickly intervenes, claiming that Lloyd is fighting someone unimportant. But Silpha isn't convinced and is about to strike Ren when Albert steps in. The others believe he's trying to defuse the situation, but in reality, he's preventing Silpha from hurting a child and redirects her focus to the adults. Albert doesn't go easy on those who have wronged Lloyd, even showing his underwear to make a point. Galilea explains there has been a misunderstanding. They didn't strip Lloyd. They merely washed his clothes, which had become sticky with mucus, and needed to dry them. Ren tries again to clarify, thanking them for saving her friends and offering to take any punishment in exchange. She adds that Lloyd is fighting for them because the demons took Jade, their family. Silpha remains unmoved, but when a demon attempts to attack Ren, Ellie and Liru step in to stop it. Ellie vouches for Ren's honesty, pointing out that Liru didn't eat her, which indicates she can be trusted. Albert reluctantly decides to trust Liru's instincts, though he remains cautious of the Assassin's Guild. With the Guild's issues temporarily set aside, they must now deal with the demons that have returned after the fireball attack. With time running out, Albert instructs Silpha to find Lloyd while they handle the demons. Ren tries to stop Silpha, fearing she might uncover the prince's secret, but Silpha is determined. Just as she's about to set off, spears rain down, and the bridge collapses. Realizing she can't reach Lloyd anymore, Silpha is forced to rethink her plan. To make matters worse, the demons fall into the water and start swimming toward them. Albert quickly directs everyone to the riverbanks, knowing it's safer than staying on the bridge where the demons could surround them. As they retreat, they have to fend off smaller demons along the way. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Gizarm fly over the castle. Lloyd had asked the Demon Lord to destroy the bridge so they could fight without interruptions. Gizarm is confused by his own feelings. Instead of wanting to kill humans, he is solely focused on battling Lloyd. He attempts to attack the prince by teleporting spears, but Lloyd anticipates the move and dodges them. Grimm warns Lloyd not to lose focus, especially against a formidable opponent like the Demon Lord. Noticing something strange about the sword Lloyd is using, Grimm asks what the prince is planning to do. Meanwhile, Albert and his soldiers fight fiercely against the demons, wielding enchanted swords to keep them at bay. Lloyd feels relieved he doesn't have to assist them, allowing him to focus entirely on battling Gizarm. Despite the demons' resistance to magic, the soldiers' enchanted swords inflict significant damage. Albert notices this but worries because the demons can heal themselves. Diane uses his powerful magic sword, but it's not enough to defeat all the demons. With the soldiers running low on magic, Albert tries to figure out how to help Silpha and Liru fight up close. Suddenly, Albert realizes Silpha is missing. She is preparing to jump off the bridge with Shiro to reach the other side, despite the Assassin's Guild trying to stop her. Shiro, eager to meet his master, leaps but fails the jump and lands in the river. Undeterred, Silpha is about to jump when the Humpty Dumpty demon attacks unexpectedly. Silpha defends herself well, but the demon reveals he is an 8th class demon and a master of the supreme swords of the Netherworld, making him a formidable opponent. Unaware of the demon's full strength, Silpha continues to fight. On the riverbanks, Albert hesitates to attack the demons, concerned they might have possessed innocent people from Lordost and wanting to spare them if possible. While Albert is distracted, a demon sneaks up behind him, but Babylon quickly kills it. Albert is surprised by how effortlessly Babylon takes a life. Babylon explains that although he is an assassin, he dislikes killing. He tells Albert that people possessed by demons, like those taken over by Gizarme, cannot be saved and must be stopped. Albert thanks Babylon for his advice and decides to take action. Albert speaks to the possessed people from Lordost, apologizing for not being able to prevent their possession. He then orders his men to fight the demons without mercy, seeking to avenge their fallen neighbors. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Silpha battles fiercely against the powerful demon. They seem evenly matched, both sustaining injuries. Silpha gets a cut on her forehead. The demon declares its intention to take over Silpha's body to learn her sword skills, just as it did with the people from Lordost. Tired of the demon's boasts, Silpha surprises it by mimicking its demonic blade technique. She calls for Shiro, who brings her the sword Lloyd made. Unlike fancy spells, Lloyd crafted the sword to be strong and flexible, allowing Silpha to use her full power. Demons need bodies to function, either by creating their own or possessing others. Thus, injuring the possessed body also harms the controlling demon. However, it requires a strong, decisive hit to defeat the demon. Otherwise, the body can regenerate. Silpha recalls asking Lloyd why he made her sword so strong and flexible. The prince had said that when he saw her swing a sword, it seemed like she was holding back, afraid it might break. Silpha felt happy that Lloyd understood her needs and promised to take good care of the sword. She decided to name it Demon Bane, vowing not to let Lloyd down again, as she did when she couldn't defeat Pazuzu. In the present, the demon mocks Silpha's choice of name, claiming that she and her country will lose anyway. It reveals that the plan to spread rumors of war and extract Jade was orchestrated by the demons. The Assassin's Guild, overhearing this, is furious to learn that the demons had used Jade's dislike for war from the start. Ren charges forward in anger, but Silpha, knowing the former would only get in the way, knocks her out. She reassures the others not to worry because the demons won't win. The demon, still confident of its victory, prepares to use its most advanced demonic blade technique. But before it can execute the move, Silph swiftly and flawlessly cuts it down. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more. And check out some of our other series shown on screen now.